Here we go, guys. It's week number 3 and I'm trying the javelins, and this time I have taken out my long sword and it's been moderated a little bit so I can have a little bit more than just 2 hands grip on it, and it has a little bit more leverage. It's much more faster. And the javelins, I decided to just take out the 2 shorter ones, and I'm just trying the speed and I'm trying the weight of them so that I can moderate them as weeks go by. I can try different strategies, build them differently so that they can fly better, more smoothly, and as well keep more compact rather than having big long spears, and just kind of making it easier to carry and move around with. And I just wanted to take a break from all the crazy politics again on my Sunday, and today it's Christmas, if you guys don't know it, and you guys may get this upload late, so I may be uploading this on the 26th on Boxing Day, which is just the day after Christmas, and that's okay. So right here I am trying my best to maneuver in this snow, which is very slippery, and right under it is a hard sheet of ice. So everything under this snow is absolutely frozen and the snow is just stiff. But once you kind of like crack the top layer, it's really flaky on the bottom, so your legs kind of get caught. So I'm trying to move as fast as I can by stepping very shortly and just trying to have fun and trying to get my cardio up the best I can, because I believe that this kind of training works on your muscles, your cardio, everything, and it does. It really strengthens your wrist and your coordination, your leg work, and as well your core and your arm muscles. Just everything gets strengthened, and as well you get some agility and get that endurance worked on. So here I'm just trying different strategies. I once again not throwing the javelin very hard. The javelins are not sharp. They just have enough of a point so they can stick into things. So you will see them bouncing off the sheet of ice on the bottom, or just kind of being flung, and sometimes they don't fly completely straight. And that once again is because of the balance. So I'm just trying different things with my javelin so that I can balance them out differently, build them differently as time goes by, so that I can have a much smoother throw, smoother weight, and as well just not have them too big, too cumbersome, because that does make a difference. But I would say that the medieval javelins, the javelins of back in the day in Iberia, they would have been just a little bit more longer than these ones. So I'm just trying everything that I can. And as time is going by, I find myself getting more stronger, and as well I'm getting more resistant to this really cold weather that does kind of kill you while you're out there sweating and moving around really fast and really hard and warming up and cooling down. But I'm enjoying it, I'm getting faster, and it's been a long time since I've tried my longsword here, and I think I'm not doing too bad. I'm slipping a little bit on the snow, and you can see that I actually like to do the stabs a lot. So instead of just slicing and cutting and all that sort of hacking, I actually like to do some blocking coordinations, maybe a good slice, a good hack, and always followed up with a good thrust, or coming in with a good thrust, because I find it that hitting your enemy with your point is much more better than trying to cut them, because their chainmail or certain kind of armors or even certain kind of fabrics are very resistant to cuts, and sometimes you don't always get the sword properly on the mark, and what happens is that it ends up being deflected by the fabric. Even skin can do that, believe it or not, if you don't do it properly. So I say that stabbing your enemy is much more better. And as well, I'm using the mace. So the mace is actually connected to one of my javelins, and I just kind of disconnect them, move them in two, and I can swing very rapidly, very broadly, and the mace takes down everything in its way. So it's something that you can use with a lot of efficiency. And as well, I can attach it to my javelin and throw it again. And then what I do is I pick up my long sword and I start hacking everything that I can, fighting everything, blocking, moving as fast as I can, but with efficient energy. And then when I feel safe enough that there's no enemies around, what I do is that I pick up the javelins and I go again for the throw. Now you can see that I'm keeping it very close range so I can keep it in the camera, but at the same time I'm doing kind of semi-hard throws up close, also because it's easier to take out enemies closer, because when you're using the javelin, it's very easy for an enemy to dodge it, especially when they're also javelin soldiers, or at the same time it's very easy to dodge a javelin if it's you know, anticipated well, and as well a soldier has experience of that. So when I do this training, I don't just do it to LARP around and act, even though sometimes I take out the uniforms or the suits, or I kind of mimic, I kind of replicate what it used to be back then. But this time around I just decided to grab my normal clothes, be agile, go out there and just do a quick session. I did go for a quick jog before this, but I decided to come out and just do a little bit of casual sword play and stuff like that. And not really sword play, it is training, it is cardio. I am getting a lot of muscle built from this, a lot of energy is being used, and it's really increasing my strength. So for me, I actually take it quite seriously. It's also cultural, so when I come out here I don't just swing madly so that I can fight people. No, it's actually about training, learning, and as well studying tactics and learning the history of it and seeing how fast you can be and how good you can be. And one day if you ever do competition and stuff and you do this as a hobby or as just exercise, you can be a pretty good competitor. If you even go to a gym, you know, you can do this for long enough and you can possibly assist in a class, or if you really study it well and learn the tactics and as well the history, you may be able to open up your own studio, which it is expensive to do, but at the same time it's something fun, and a lot of people do these kind of things. That's why they do martial arts and stuff like that. So I'm kind of ranting on a lot, and that's okay because I'm not doing this as something really serious, you know, it's like I'm training for the UFC, but I am putting some exertion into it, and I don't do this very often, but I'm starting to do this more at home when I got my spare time, try different movements, strengthen my wrist. And the way you strengthen your wrists is by using your sword. You strengthen your muscles by using your sword, and you get stronger and you do repetitive shots. And that's what you're going to see a lot when I do my videos, and I'm going to try to do these on Sundays after I do my whole church thing, and I, you know, study and research videos for the week that's coming. So I try to research things and I try to put videos together, and yeah, they don't get that much views, but it's okay. When I do get views and interactions, it is pretty positive. And you're gonna actually see in this video that the lights are gonna go off, and that's right before I go into this slow motion where I kind of repeat everything that I filmed, or at least the highlights of it. But it's gonna go dark, and it goes dark because the lights go off where I am. So it's very early right now, it's like around like 6 o'clock, but the lights go off, and yeah, so we start here in the slow motion, and you can see all my screw ups and all my exertions, and as well the good talent or the little bit of skill that I have. You can kind of see it more in the slow motion. So a lot of people would see that my legs maybe not are that balanced, that they're kind of moving around a lot, but in reality I'm actually pretty comfortable with what I'm doing. I keep pretty good balance, it's very effective, and I do a lot of agility. I try to move out of the way as much as I can and try to move in. So when I do this, I picture like real opponents. I try to do different things. I try not to just stick to one movement, one kind of hack, one kind of technique. I try to move in as much as I can, and I try to incorporate a lot of these jabs, a lot of these stabs, because it's much more harder for an opponent, let's just say in real life or in combat or back in those days, to recover from a puncture than it is a giant hack. Because once again, like if you get your arm like almost chopped off, you can cover that up, you can ask for surrender, or you can run away and you can get help if that guy isn't really chasing you and trying to really kill you, if he's not distracted by other units. But when you're punctured, the man who's fighting you can actually just run away and will leave you there, and you will still want to fight, but what you may not realize is that you're bleeding pretty fast on the inside. So punctures are actually much more deadly, and they can go through a lot of chain mills, they can go through a lot of armors, and just the hacks sometimes are not that efficient. But if you have a good sword and you have good techniques and your opponent's just right, or their armor is not that thick and their skill is not based off deflecting things like sabers, and they got like a big shield, you know, you can kill a lot of opponents in the battlefield, like in medieval warfare or something like that. You can actually do a lot of damage to a lot of opponents, and a lot of Middle Eastern units would have done that. But in Europe, people would have liked double-edged straight swords so that they can take out light opponents very efficiently, and as well use a double edge so that they can use different techniques, so that they evolve into different techniques. So in reality, a straight sword can do everything a saber can, and it can almost cut just as well. But a saber is much more designed for cut. It becomes very agile, it becomes a force to be reckoned with. But you can as well do that with a straight sword, but you can also cut with the back of the edge. And not all of them have a back of an edge, so they're just made for blocking, but as well they're made for thrusting. And that's something that's been pretty typical in European armies or European warfare, is the thrusting. It's a very evolved thing too, because when you have weapons that are just based for thrusting, it takes a certain kind of mentality, a certain kind of unit, a certain kind of training, because the human instinct is always based off hacking. So when you got weapons that puncture in reality, and you can use them, you know, while someone's hacking, in reality you may be able to get much more speed. So that's why later in the period a lot of people would have used rapiers, and even the longsword, believe it or not, people think that it's just made for hacking. In reality, the stabbing was pretty efficient. So enough of talking about stabbing here, let's go back to my action and where I am. So yeah, just repeating the moves, try my best. The javelins don't go in that well because there's a big sheet of ice below the ground I am training on, but I'm having fun, and I hope that you guys as well have fun watching these videos and find my videos on politics and other things interesting. But before I started getting into politics, which I've always done kind of once in a while, I did videos like this, a lot of videos like this, a lot of videos on weapon training, a lot of weapon reviews and stuff like that on my previous channels. But on this channel I'm just focusing on a lot of stuff that is political, and once in a while I get to kind of get out from that and just kind of do my own thing or take a break from that, because I don't like just focusing on all the negativity on this world. Even though we got to focus and be aware, we also got to be human. We got to be able to recover, digest things, be able to have some time alone and kind of recharge your batteries, if you know what I'm saying. Because when you are involved in so much action and so much problems, it can be very corrosive on the mind, and it can kind of slow you down in other tasks. So you need to digest sometimes. Sometimes you need to just take it easy, and as well work on your body, work on your mind, your soul, and everything. And as a person who is Christian, I like doing the weapons training, but I don't feel ill feelings when I do this. I don't feel aggression, even though I pretend that there's opponents in front of me. I more treat it like sport, treat it more like agility, like I'm being able to deflect, block, do this. So it's something that, like, I may not have been able to do before, but I mastered it, and it's simple, and it is effective in a self-defense situation. Or let's just say if you want to do competition or sport, you develop pretty good skills, and it works for a lot of other things, for boxing, for kickboxing, for everything. So I like to incorporate this stuff, and it does build strength and agility, and it's not like tearing up your muscles or your shoulders or anything like that. But of course, if you do it the wrong way and you're stretching very like wrong and you're not doing things properly, you're gonna pull some stuff. But if you do it right and you keep your body in proper balance, and as well you make sure you know your limitations, and you don't stretch this way, you don't pull this way, you don't put too much energy in that, and you put a lot of energy when you're supposed to, then you're fine. You learn how to do things. So far everything seems good. I was exercising for quite a bit, just 45 minutes, and I think I put like 10 minutes into this, and I did some stuff off camera, just kind of warming up, and the cold really gets to you, and I don't got really like such a heavy clothes on. But yeah, I felt a little bit of exertion, and I feel good about that. It's because I haven't done this kind of stuff in a while, like just because I'm a man doesn't mean that I'm going to the gym every single day and keeping up to this military standard. No, I'm just a regular guy, but I'm getting there. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna try to do this again and get my muscles built up and try to do different things, try to get different shields and swords and different kind of costumes and stuff like that, so I can mimic different periods, different times. And I do a lot of Spanish history because it relates to my culture, as well as some German that I got in my culture as well, or at least in my bloodline, or whatever you call it. It's pretty interesting to learn. So it's like, once you got Germany and Spain, you got kind of all over Europe. You got technically all the weapon styles, all the sorts of swords, everything. Because Spain, in reality, it's really not really looked at, but they had more weapons than a lot of other nations did. They used them a lot too. They had a very heavy warrior culture that was like a frontier style culture, especially with the Reconquista and as well as conquest with America and the domination that it had in Europe. And it's not just about domination or glory or the soldiers. I just like the culture as well. It's my culture, and I've been participating in the English speaking language and the culture here in North America, and I've absolutely just loved it. I have connection with as well in places Latin America with my culture, with my history and stuff like that. So it's like I'm getting to know all these cultures for what they are, and I'm realizing that, wow, the history that I've overlooked, my Spanish history, because of being in another culture, learning other histories, being awed by other things, now that I'm getting into this as an adult, I'm starting to realize, wow, the Spanish cultures or the military traditions of Spain or just Iberia with Portugal and everything, even North Africa and parts of France and Italy and stuff like that, it's pretty interesting, like the history and how everything connects and how interesting things are, and I just get very fascinated by these things. But that's not the only reason why I train either. It's just like, it's like the best that I got, you know. I don't want to train with like rifles and hand grenades and, you know, kill people and stuff like that. But I still want to train in the ability of being agile, being able to move, being able to thrust, being able to block. Like, let's just say if I was back in those days, if I was some sort of like knight or some sort of soldier, like, you know, like, am I just gonna get like murdered or am I gonna be able to like put up a chance, put up a fight or anything like that? If I was like thrown in a coliseum, you know, and I was innocent but I had to fight for my life or just get ripped up by a bunch of lions, like, at least I'm going to be able to learn something. So it's like I can throw a javelin, I can fight with a long sword, I can fight with a shield, I can fight with a single-handed sword, I can fight with a mace, I can fight hand-to-hand combat, I can do decent kicks, I can do different kind of martial arts, I can do the Japanese style, I can do pole arms, I can do technically everything that involves melee for back in the day, because I've been doing this since I was a kid. And it's not that I learned this from TV, it's just naturally it's been like that. My dad as well was a martial artist growing up, and he did it a lot, and he still likes that kind of stuff. But when he was younger, around my age, he was very active with these kind of things, and I just think about it, I'm like, hey, you know what, like, I guess that's where I've got the influence. It's been pretty self-motivated. Like, I don't really watch TV, I don't like watching movies and stuff and getting all my imagination from there, but I really do enjoy learning, and for some reason this stuff just drives me to try to do different things and try different experiments and stuff like that. Of course, in a safe manner, which has respect for my community, for myself, and just for exercise and stuff like that. And I think that more young people should start doing that stuff in positive ways rather than picking up guns and selling drugs and a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you know, if you don't want to play basketball all the time, maybe you can do this with your friends. Maybe not with javelins, but sure, with cold steel swords and padding and stuff like that. Even go to a dojo, get yourself you know, registered to a gym and stuff like that, and maybe you can do competitions. So there's all sorts of good stuff that you can do in life rather than just fighting and doing a whole bunch of stupid stuff. So Merry Christmas, everybody. I think you're gonna see this video on the 26th, but thank you very much for spending time with me, and until next time, take care and goodbye.